Each particle or preposition that will accept suffixed pronouns will take one of these three types of pronouns. They are each illustrated as a paradigm with lamed for type 1, kaf for type 2, and al for type 3. You will note, though, that there are other particles and prepositions also following each of the patterns. Each of these three paradigms must be memorized. First, type 1, and again we work from third masculine singular to first common singular, and then third common plural to first common plural. So in type 1 with lamed we have lo, la, laka, lak, li. And then in the plural, lahem, lahen, lakem, laken, lanu. For type 2 with kaf we have kamohu, kamoha, kamoka, kamok, kamoni. In the plural we have kahem, kahen, kahena, kakem, kaken, and kamonu. And then for type 3 with al, we have alav, aleha, aleka, alayik, alai. And then in the plural, alehem, alehen, alekem, aleken, and alenu. And again, each of these three paradigms must be memorized. There are several additional notes required for each type of suffixes, particularly on type 1. First, you will want to note from the previous section that there are alternative forms in the type 1 suffixes for the third masculine plural and third feminine plural. These forms could equally become lam or lan. Second, you will note that two of the words, ate and also een, which take these suffixes, actually come from a geminate base. We covered this in section 6.2. The gemination of and it will actually reappear in cases of the suffixes. Een actually comes from the base ayin, mem, mem, and ate actually comes from the base aleph, tav, tav. In the cases of forms with the suffixes, that doubling will become apparent. Or im, plus the suffix o, for instance, the third masculine singular form with him, will have a dagesh in the mem, indicating the doubling of the form. Ate, with, or it, in the form that it often takes suffixes, when it takes a suffix, a, for instance, the third feminine singular form, will have a dagesh in the tav, indicating, again, the gemination, itah. There is an ambiguity in Hebrew between this form, ate or it, meaning with, and ate or et, meaning the definite direct object marker. In the case of suffix prepositions, you can distinguish them. The marker of the definite direct object with suffix prepositions will either be et plus the suffix, or it will be ot plus the suffix. On the other hand, the preposition, spelled aleph tav, when it takes suffixes, will be spelled it plus the dagesh to indicate gemination of the consonant. With the form im, you will want to be aware that in the first common singular form, there is a common alternative. One would expect im plus the suffix e and the marking of the gemination. And while that often occurs, there is also the form imadi, marking the gemination, but imadi. so do not be surprised when you see alternate forms developing. For type 2 suffixes, both ka, like or as, and min will attach their suffixes to lengthened forms of the pronoun, either kamo plus suffixes, or in the case of min, me, and then a nun plus the suffixes. With the form kamo, you get the form you have learned in the paradigm. Kamohu, kamoha, kamoka, kamok, kamoni. Kahem, kahin, kahena, kakem, kaken, kamonu. You'll notice then that the form kamo is used as the longer form to which the suffixes are attached in the singular forms and in the first common plural, but not in the other plural forms. With the form min coming from mimen, you will note a fairly complex set of interactions. In the second masculine singular form and the second feminine singular form, the nun will assimilate into the following ka. So these forms will be mimka for the second masculine singular form, and mimate for the second feminine singular form. On the other hand, in the third masculine singular and third feminine singular forms, the he that would normally be on the suffix will instead assimilate into the nun, and the nun will remain. So in these forms, you will instead have mimenu and mimena for the third masculine singular and third feminine singular forms of men. In addition, not only could you have mimeni with the attachment of me for the first common singular form, it is also common to have a simple form mini, from me. In the cases of all these various little niggles and changes, the key is to be able to recognize that you have a form of the preposition plus the object, not to be able to recreate any form except the paradigm. Use your time to learn the paradigms well, and then work on recognition of pronouns and suffixes. For type 3 suffixes, after learning the paradigm and noting the other prepositions and particles that take the form, there's only one note, the preposition lif, ne, before. When taking suffixes, we'll take the form l, fan, plus the addition of suffixes. So for instance, you would have l, fa, nav for the form lifne in its suffix form lafan plus av, the third masculine singular form.